Hey, welcome to the show. Come on in.
All right, so this is episode 13 of the Fin.Ed show, and we decided to choose a topic that's near and dear to our hearts as females in the financial world. And today we have Alee Swofford and Cayla D. Porter, and both of them are Cayla's using our FFE program and Alee's using our AFEA program to teach financial education in their communities. Kayla's a little bit newer to the industry while Alee has been doing this for quite a while and has a lot of experience under her belt. And so I just want to welcome you two today to the show. Hey guys.
Hello, thanks for having us.
So I wanted to start by asking you guys some fun icebreaker questions first, if y'all were open to that.
Sure.
The first thing, and I'll let you go first, Alee, and then I'll let you answer this one, Cayla. If you could have any superpower to revolutionize the financial industry, what would it be and why?
I think the superpower would be for communication with anybody, from females in the business to the most sophisticated business person, because I think if you can communicate the value of financial education, not only for them, but for others in their lives, then when people understand what you're attempting to do, which is to educate, to have people feel confident in what they're doing, then they're on board. And so I think it's communicating what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Absolutely. And I guess that's probably why you're putting education first. That's one of the things we always talk about, for like in the interview type of call that we're doing with anyone who wants to be a part of these programs, is talking to them about, how putting the education first is going to be best for both parties in the long run, because you're able to communicate about, you're on the same, or as close as you can get to the same level of understanding about these topics, right? So yeah, that's a great one. What about you, Cayla? What do you think?
No, I love what Ali said because mine's very similar. I mean, my superpower would be the ability to just touch someone and transfer all that financial knowledge to them so they have that understanding. Because I think that's the biggest thing here is just getting that outreach and spreading it. So being a telepath would be the superpower.
Yeah, totally. I think, mine's not related to the financial industry, but if I had a superpower, it would absolutely be teleporting. Like, I hate to travel. Taking the time to get from one place to another,
Yeah.
So for you, Cayla, you go first on this one. What's the most unexpected piece of financial advice that you've ever received, and did you follow it?
Yeah. Okay. So it's very simple, and I've heard it twice in my life, and it was to get health insurance. Right. So don't necessarily, and it wasn't an investment advice, but it was advice about protecting your wealth. And, health insurance, sure, you're not going to build wealth, but you'll protect it there. And this story plays so true because I literally am moving from California to Texas right now, had 2 weeks of a gap in coverage. So, of course, I got supplemental because I was like, I remember I was told never to walk around without health insurance. What happens? In that time I'm traveling, I get a kidney infection. I get treated at the ER in Texas, April 2nd. My insurance was for April 1st. And that bill was 10 grand.
Ooh,
so having that coverage was just, it's happened before, and it's important to protect the wealth as well. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah. The chances, of course it's going to happen in that gap. Yeah. What about you, Alee?
I think the biggest one for me was, I finished my PhD when I was 23. And of course, you think you're just starting your career. And when I went to sign up for my first benefits package, they said, well, how much are you going to put in for retirement? And I thought, retirement? This is my first job. I don't want to start thinking about that. But the best advice was hey, you've been in graduate school, you've been poor, go ahead, put in as much as you can because you're not going to miss it in 20, 30, 40 years from that time frame, whatever amount you started putting in when you finish school. Or I even encourage parents and grandparents, if their kids are working at McDonald's, whatever they make, put that into a Roth IRA for that child, because look at that compound growth over that number of years and the opportunity. So save as much as you can, as soon as you can, and leave it alone. It's not a fun to buy a new refrigerator. It's what's going to keep you in your lifestyle later in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You know, and we get a lot of phone calls, to AFEA from people who are wanting to educate because they're more of a financial coach, and they're talking about, they're not necessarily, an investment advisor or anything like that, but they're wanting to talk to people who need to work on like, debt management, it's just general savings, starting at the basic, even 401k, and it's just not too early. I think those people, even though they're not the ones moving around the money, I think those people are so special and important to the mission that, we are trying to, the stage at which we are in the mission of financial education, at which you two are both at. These people are important in the process because they're never going to get to a point of being able to invest any money if they haven't saved it, if they haven't found like a simple way in the very beginning, to start early. They're going to be those kind of late adapters, but anytime is a good time. So can you tell me, like, what's the most unconventional way you've ever explained a financial concept to someone? Like, we've got this financial education going, we've got a presentation, that you're giving in the classroom, but before or at any time really, what's the craziest way, Alee, that you feel, or most unconventional way you feel you've been able to express a financial concept to somebody who's not, at your knowledge level?
Well, I like analogies. And so probably my most unconventional way is peanut butter. And I'll always ask folks, I'll say, hey, do you like peanut butter? And there are very few people who say, no, I don't like peanut butter. And I'll say, well, what do you prefer, smooth or chunky? And whatever their answer is, it's the right answer. And I'll say, well, investing is kind of like that. You've got to put some money in that's going to be easily accessible. And that's your chunky money. Okay, if I need some money, I can go get it out of my chunky money. But you've got to have some smooth money, some money that's going to provide that long-term income. So I have a lot of business executives, retirees, all this stuff that'll say, okay, I need some money. Should I get it out of my smooth or my chunky money? So peanut butter is probably my most unconventional. I find that if you make it simple and if you make it something that people can grasp the concept of what you're trying to say, it sticks with them and they feel like they're more in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have some, agency over the situation, I guess. What about you, Cayla?
Gosh, I wish I had something as cool as chunky versus smooth. That's a really good one,
Yep, you
Aleen. Very good. I guess, when it comes to explaining some concepts, there could be some, one concept in particular that I've explained to individuals is the difference of, this is when it comes to life insurance, term versus permanent. So I tell people, what is it like when you buy a home or you're renting a home versus you're buying a home, right? When you're renting something, it's not going to be there forever because eventually if the rent stops, then bye roof, right? Whereas if you're buying, you're actually contributing to equity, right? You're building something. So that's kind of how I direct people towards, are you building towards something or is this just temporary? What's the goal?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely makes it digestible.
Not as good as chunky versus smooth. Yeah.
I don't know. That's chunky versus smooth is way too good. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit next about the challenges that you feel you face as a female in a male-dominated industry. Like what comes to mind right off the bat? Like, what's the first challenge? Either one of y'all. Allie, you go for it.
Okay. Um, quite honestly, I think that a lot of the challenge is between our ears. If we have confidence in what we have learned, our own education, how we can help people, and how we're going to improve their lives, back to that communication. If you can communicate with confidence to men or women, I don't really feel that women are at a disadvantage. If nothing else, we might be at an advantage because more and more women are in control of the family finances or have inherited from their parents funds, and they're looking for someone. Now, it doesn't have to be a woman, it can be a man, but someone who can communicate with them, who can make them feel valued and comfortable and not make them feel like, well, you don't know as much as I do. You want them to feel like I can ask you anything. Like we had just before this call, somebody, in our language, we talk about qualified money and non-qualified money. Well, we just use those terms like it's nothing. Well, so this lady on this call said, can I ask you what non-qualified money is? See, we talk, and if we don't communicate at a level where they can understand that, then finances become something that's scary. But if we as women will just value the people we're talking with and speak in simple terms that communicate, that resonate, that they feel comfortable asking questions, then I think women have every opportunity to be as successful, if not more successful, in the financial services industry.
Yes, absolutely. I love that, Allie. We absolutely agree. I think that's a great point. And it's funny you say, communicating with someone and getting down on their level. It's kind of like working with children, like we were doing an Easter egg hunt last weekend, and the guy whose house the Easter egg hunt was at was like, okay, children, he's about to let everybody go. And he's like, okay, children, we're going to get the eggs. This area is for 2 and under, and this blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do this all in a civil manner. And I was like, what does that mean? Because these kids don't know what a civil manner is, so if you're talking up here, but just because you have the experience, obviously children versus adults is life experience, but for, an advisor versus, just a person who's not, it's industry experience. So yeah, you don't have to, you try to meet them up here, you meet them, at a personal level. And I think that's a great point and very important. What do you think, Cayla? Like, what about your challenge? What's your number one challenge being a woman in the industry?
Well, I definitely am going to be playing off of what Allie was saying, and it's right. You keep it simple, right? This can be a very complicated topic for many, and I do agree that women have better, what do we call, bedside manner almost. So we're almost we're at an advantage, I think, in the industry. And the biggest thing, I think, is the mindset of actually getting into this industry and stepping into it and feeling confident to compete against men. It's ultimately your work ethic that's going to overpower anything. So yeah, just to play off a little bit, that is just the work ethic, don't let someone say, oh, you're a woman. Yeah, so what? I think,
Absolutely.
women work hard and they have a softness to the space too, which is important to, make sure you're building a relationship with clients too. So they can ask you anything, like Ali was saying.
Yep.
I think we have better listening skills.
Yeah.
Listening skills, and when you're talking with somebody, they want to be heard. So sometimes the very best meetings are the ones where you just ask thought-provoking questions and they go, gosh, you were so smart. No, I just listened and reflected back what you were interested in learning or hearing. So those listening skills, to me, a communication, that's just what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yep. I remember that being communicated to me in marriage counseling, and if I hadn't, it's just a marriage is very similar, to the relationship you have with your clients. You're building a future together. So, I think communication is just as important in the relationship that you have with your clients as it is in something like a marriage, where you're making plans for a long, long time. Next, do y'all have any, you know, what do you think about this whole using financial education as a way to grow your practice? How effective has it been for you? And, what about, and how does it reflect towards like client engagement and client retention? What's your relationship like with your clients that came to you from financial education classes compared to, any other method really? Do you see a noticeable difference, in that relationship? Cayla, you go first because Ali went first last time.
Yeah, I would say I do. I feel like I do have a bit of a closer bond because we've met in person. That's a key one. I think I do a lot of in person, which I think is important if possible. And it definitely builds a stronger bond just right away. And I think adding the teaching aspects to the practice is very empowering. Just, not only as a woman, but just in the business, because you're adding, when we do these classes, you see how many people are attending and you understand that you're adding a lot of value. Just that alone is very empowering for you to keep going and pursuing the business. But yeah, the client relation, I feel like it builds much better growth and connection when you're teaching someone and you're working with them. And so yeah, I find it to be very successful to lead with education, big time.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Ali?
Well, the number one way to acquire new clients is by referral. I mean, I think we would all agree with that. You're borrowing somebody else's trust. They already trust you. So I think education is number two. So
Yeah.
I would put it right up there because now I'm putting myself in front of you. So you can judge me. You can, within the first 30 seconds of what comes out of my mouth, you can say, I might be able to relate to her, or she seems to want to help me understand. So I think that's where AFEA really comes in, being a nonprofit organization, being educational, wanting, the community to raise their level of financial education. You're already on the right foot. So, you get so many people who get 10 invitations in a week to go to this lunch, go to this dinner, hear this, hear that. And they know there's a pitch, there's a catch, there's something in that. But when you are in a nonprofit environment, and I hate having to read that whole statement, but my mom was a first grade teacher, so I get through it pretty well.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I think if we continue to emphasize, we're here for you, this is kind of like your calling. Okay, I have a day job, but this is what I choose to do with my time, then they're going, wow, I like that. So, like I said, I have my 1, 2. My first is obviously referrals. My second is AFEA financial education.
That's awesome. And I love that you called it borrowing someone's trust. What a great way to put that. And you know what? You've been doing this for a while, Allie, so you may have already seen this happen. You've been a member with AFEA for a long time, but is sometimes you do get the referrals from the people who have come to your classes and who have become clients from your classes. And that is like double layering the trust. Is there like, they are recalling the way they met you was your number 2 way, but then they referred you, a friend, a family member, whatever. And, they felt so comfortable with the way they met you. There's even a higher level of comfortability with that next person they've referred because, now they've borrowed that level of trust, and that would be so strong just from putting the education first. And I think I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, one of the questions that I had when I was asking this was, what about the retention of the client? Do you feel like these, and this will be different for Cayla and Allie, this question. Do you feel like the people who have come to the educational classes have been less of a transactional type feel, as far as the type of client they are, if they stuck around for a long time? Allie, I'll let you answer that because you've been doing this longer than Cayla has, but do you feel those are long lasting clients because the education was put first?
Well, again, it's all client experience. So if they're attracted to you through the education and you continue to educate throughout your whatever discovery process or the things that we're doing as we're moving from you're getting to know me, you like me, you trust me, you're going to let me do some planning work for you in an area. It's a natural progression. And I think it very much, well, I guess it depends on the advisor as well, but our retention level on clients is like, unless you die, you're going to be a client. I mean,
Good.
they've
That's
been
great.
with us for 15, 20 years. And I mean, I have third generation. So I've got grandma, grandpa started this and their kids saw what happened and they went, oh, I need to work with this group. And it all evolves around education because again, these people, I mean, I like to be educated. I
Yeah.
like to feel like, okay, I understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, no matter what the topic is. So I think that's very true in our industry. And I wanted to comment one thing about that, which really clicked with me. We've had people who've come to AFEA, and of course, at the bottom of the evaluation, is there an organization or a business or something that you think would benefit from having this? And we've been introduced into great businesses, into city governments, into, I mean, just all sorts of opportunities through just that little portion at the bottom. And having come across as educators and trying to help people, they feel comfortable referring you not only to friends and family, but to business and organizations. And that can be huge.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It's funny you said that on this episode because our last episode was about that. So, I said the same thing, on that last episode, but it's good to hear it from someone who's out there doing it, not just myself saying it, but I'm glad you added that because yeah, it's much easier to recommend someone to a class or to education than it is to a sale, so I think it's hard on sometimes, it's a warm up. The education is a warm up and you can recommend someone to a warm up much more easily than you can to like the game. you know, a practice versus a game, or a warm up versus a game or a tournament. You know, it's just a light version of what you offer. So I think that's a great point. Um, what about, um, I want to ask you both this, and it's going to be different answers just because of the length of time you've been in the industry. And I'll let you go first, Cayla. And this is kind of cool because I'm sure this answer will change as you get further into your career. But what has been the most pivotal moment, the biggest thing, the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way?
Oh, that's a good question. So in terms of pivotal moments, I think, well, there's probably two big ones. One was, the first class that I ever gave, and I was so nervous, and I'd put in all this work, and I was like, are people even going to show up? And they did. And I was like, okay, wow, people need this. Wow, like, okay, I must move forward. I must carry on. And so that was a big pivotal moment. And then another pivotal moment was being able to bring CFF, FFE to people on the team that I work with, and grow this outreach, and see that there are so many people out here who are passionate advisors who want to go out there and teach. So, stepping into this role first on the team, I think, was so pivotal, because now, we're building it up, and we're looking to continue to teach nationwide. So that was a big one. We'll see how things change into the future, but growing the outreach.
Yeah, and that escalated quickly for you too. You know, you haven't been doing this that long, but I think the value was thrown at you really quickly, and was easy for you to see that, it only gets better, as you keep getting better, and the more you do it, and the more it's just kind of second nature to you, I think. What about you, Allie? What so far, and what you've been doing this, how many years do you have how many years of experience do you have in this industry?
Well, now don't tune out, listeners, just because you think I should be a grandma in the rocking chair. But February 13th was my 40th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. That's really great. What's been the pivotal moment for you in those 40 years?
Well, some of your listeners probably have never heard about the $1 Million Roundtable, MDRT. But MDRT is an organization focusing again on education and peers educating peers. We always think we're in competition. We're not.
No.
There's so much to learn. And why do you have to learn it all the hard way? I just as soon hear from somebody who's been through it, who's made the mistakes. And so I think a real pivotal moment for me was when I qualified for $1 Million Roundtable, and now I've been top of the table. I'm life and qualified. I wouldn't miss a meeting. I mean, I go now. Do I think I'm necessarily going to get the greatest idea or whatnot at this point in my career? No, but the friendships, the camaraderie, and the $1 Million Roundtable Foundation. I think we have an obligation not only to give back educationally, but charitably as well. So that's probably been the biggest, but I will say we're encouraging because we have an ensemble practice here, and two of our advisors just got the fiduciary certification, and we're encouraging everyone to really raise their game so that we can differentiate ourselves in our community.
Absolutely. Taking that extra step and being able to say that you did it is really big, I think, to your clients. I meet people who don't put a lot of value behind that. And, I really do think it just takes a minute for them to realize that there is more value than is obvious right away. Terry raised her hand. Yes, Terry.
Hi, Aleen. Aleen, I would like to know, based on when you started with AFEA, if you had advice to give to someone who was starting out with AFEA, what would that be?
Could you hear her, Allie?
Yeah, I did. Determine what's the biggest need in the market that you're trying to serve. For us, Social Security, education. So you guys have a lot of offerings, but you've got to figure out what is it that's missing for so many people. So, I'm not treading on any toes, but we do Social Security and taxes and retirement because that's our target market. We're looking for those people who are 55 and up who, don't have a clue. And, so we want to be that education. We want to talk about, bracket bumping. The advantage of the higher wage earner delaying. That's our market, and they're hungry for that. So whoever, whatever your market is, whatever niche you've decided to go in, look through the AFEA classes best fit the niche you're trying to address.
That's a great, like, just focus in on what you know you need to be doing without trying to go. You're trying to say basically, you don't want to be a master of none. You want to make sure that you're really, really hammering down on that specific area and, keeping your focus on that instead.
Well, and I also mean repetition. You can't
Yeah.
expect to just do one class, or, you all said, well, Al, you've been with AFEA for a long time. Well, we think you're a good program. We think you provide good educational materials. We keep doing your classes repetitively. We'll rotate through different areas within our geographic location, but it's not just one and done. And, I think the comment was made, Cayla, you said, well, gosh, is somebody going to show up? Well, some of the biggest successes we've had is when we maybe only had 4 or 5 people there, but it was so one-on-one and they just got so much out of it. If they become a client, if you get one client out of a class of 20 or you get one client out of a class of 5, what's the difference? I mean, sure, I'd like to have 20 opportunities, but don't give up. Don't think if you don't have great attendance the first time and you didn't get a client out of it, that's going to be the way it is every time. You've got to be persistent.
Great point. Consistency always. Persistency and consistency. Thank you, Allie. I really appreciate that. I do one thing I didn't really give you guys was an opportunity to talk about your practices and like where they are right now. I didn't ask you where you're located or anything like that. So, can y'all give me a brief overview of just yourselves, your location, your practice? But then also, what kind of goals do you have? And what kind of, future opportunities do you hope to pursue, in your careers at this point? I'll let you go first, Cayla.
Yes. So I'm in Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm at. Although, I mean, I do travel to California because I have family there, but I spend most of the time here in Texas. And as mentioned early in the podcast, I am, early in my career, early to teaching with FFE. So, there's a lot of things happening in the practice, but we're getting it together. We have a system in place. Couldn't have done it without the guidance of FFE and ACFF. So that's amazing. And so there's been a lot of we can replicate, right? And have a replicatable process, which has been very helpful. And then, sorry, I know that was a little bit of a longer question. Was there, I feel like you had
like, and what are you looking at right now for the future in your practice? Like, what's your vision for the future? Where do you go?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the current market that we're helping, which is our 50 and older for Social Security and retirement income planning. that's a wonderful market, but I hope to eventually really get into the millennials and speak to them and get them changing their mindset on money and understanding how to save early through the experience of teaching individuals who have hit those later stages and say, hey, this is what we've seen. If we make a change now when we're young, eventual goal. But learning through our retirees, I think, is going to be so helpful to getting to our millennials in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Allie? What's, give us some background and where you see your practice headed.
This is called Prosperity Partners Wealth Management, and our address is 306 Prosperity Road. So, hey, we got prosperity going on all over the
That's
place
awesome.
here. And, it's a great thing. We have a tagline, living, loving, and leaving a legacy. So that's where I see myself in my career. We now have 4 partners. I started obviously as a solo practitioner. Now we have 4 partners. We just hired a new client service advisor, a young man who's 27 who wants to work into being a wealth manager, financial planner. So for me, it's passing wisdom on. Just like I said, I learned through MDRT. I don't need all these guys to make as many mistakes as I've made. I've stumbled through it and somehow, managed to come out the other side pretty well. But so for me, it's education within my own group. And if we have anybody out there listening that's in Knoxville, Tennessee, we're always looking for good educational allianced advisors who want to partner with us. So
Great.
it's still growth. Our practice is growing. We're expanding. In fact, I was a little afraid you'd hear the construction. We're having some reconfiguration done to add another office because we're in a growth mode and we need the space for another advisor coming in and building, as you said, Cayla, with the millennials, with future generations. I mean, I still love to talk to them, but they want somebody they can relate to a little better. And that's why we have multi-ages within our practice, from 20s all the way up to 40 years of experience. And I think that's important. Men and women, we have both advisors in our practice.
Absolutely. Yes. You have to give, you definitely have to give some credit to the fact that, as you keep like ranking up in years of experience and all of that, your clients are still going to get even younger. You're still going to be lowering the age gap is going to continue to widen as the years go by between the people you're targeting and the people and your own personal age. And it's funny because that you say that, because my dad is an advisor. So when we were, when I was a child, he was telling me always these stories about his clients, and they had, they were older than him. And now at this point, he's older than the clients. And I'm experiencing the same thing. I've been doing this at AFEA for almost 11 years now. And so there are people who are coming into the program who are younger than me. And at the beginning, no one was younger than me. So yeah, it's great to add that diversity to your team because, the clients are only getting younger. So thank you guys for really, contributing to this conversation. I think it's really great to hear from the women specifically. And I love that you said, Allie, that it's no disadvantage to be a woman in this industry, because Kayleen and I are telling ourselves that, every day we're like, well, they think this is a disadvantage, but it's just not. It really turns out to be an advantage most of the time. And I'm proud to be in that demographic that is that and understands that. So do y'all have any encouragement to the listeners to really, continue your journey using financial education in your communities, and how they can really make a difference, not only for themselves but for the people they're servicing, through this process. I'll let you go first, Alee.
Well, I'd say make sure that that's on your website, because nowadays that's how people are going to find you, and make sure that everything is consistent in all the social media that you put out, everything you do. Let people know that you are an educator first, and that's really what's important to you personally, to the firm you represent. That integrity of this is what's important, I think really gets people to at least think, well, what is my current advisor doing? Am I getting the same type of experience with somebody who is maybe more transactional rather than more educational and more developmental, and bringing in, I just call it holistic. I think education helps us be holistic financial advisors rather than kind of a monolith of what have you got and how can I get it? That's not our attitude. It's what have you got and how can we help you improve what you have, not only for you, but for future generations.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
What about you, Cayla?
Yeah, so closing comments, especially for women, right? Because we're in this time where we want to see women grow in the industry, and I think one thing too is women must enter the industry in order for us to see more women rise, right? So I just want to be out here and encourage women to at least get started. It's important just from a personal standpoint, especially like Alee was saying earlier in our conversation, women do handle a lot of the finance. So might as well learn about it, get empowered, and industry. We as women do have a little bit of an upper hand. So getting out there and learning is important. And then on the education side, as the actual advisor, I think educating it is so important, because if you are teaching something, you're going to learn that concept a lot more in depth, right? You're going to have a relationship with that concept, and that's how you're going to grow. It's through mastery over time and teaching. So I think on the advisor side, leading with education is important because it'll help you mentally grow as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Great point. Y'all have been wonderful. We've got Terry clapping the whole time because she's so just impressed by you guys. We thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for sharing all of your thoughts. And I think this will really inspire a lot of people, male or female, to just keep going. There's a beginning of it, and then there's that to the point where you're at, Alee, where you're just expanding in many different ways, bringing on even more people, and I think that financial education is a great way to grow your practice, and I'm glad you both have benefited from it in your journey so far. But thank you, and I hope to see you guys, maybe both of y'all in you already signed up, didn't you, Alee? You might have already signed up for the conference in Vegas in October. So we're hopefully see you guys both live then at the conference. But thank you for being here today, and I hope y'all have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. Y'all take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.